I, 31F, recently moved into my boyfriend's, 42 meters, house. We've been together 5 years. I'm friendly with almost all of his friends, except for his best friend's girlfriend, who hates me. I'll call her Elle. Elle thinks I'm a gold digger. My boyfriend does make a lot more money than me, but I have a decent job, work hard, I won't say what it is for privacy reasons, but I freelance, and I make okay money. Part of the reason she thinks this about me might be because we've got different backgrounds. He, and most of his friends, grew up wealthy, and I grew up working class. She's forever making little digs at my background. I'm from a poorer part of the country, with a strong accent, and trying to pass it off as banter. For the record, I banter with my boyfriend all the time about our backgrounds. She doesn't do this in front of my boyfriend, and I've never really brought it up with him, except for in passing, because I just find it funny. Since I moved in with him, she's made non-stop comments to me about how I must be so happy I've bagged him because I'd never have been able to live in a place like his otherwise. A few weeks ago, she even told me she was expecting me to announce a pregnancy to lock him in. I can't have children, but she doesn't know that. When she said that, it got to the point that it was no longer funny to me, so instead of laughing it off like I normally do, I decided I'd just play along. The next time she made a comment, I just smiled and placed a hand on my stomach. She looked shocked but didn't say anything. A little later on, she commented on how stressful it must be not to have a full-time job. So, I just said something like, well, I won't need to worry about that soon. And kind of smiled again. I'm not sure why I thought this was a good idea, but I was enjoying how angry it was making her, so I kept doing it. Last Friday, at a meal out with my boyfriend and a group of his friends, things came to a head. I wasn't drinking, I'm dieting, and in the middle of the meal, she brought it up and said something like, "It's weird to see a person from your region sober." I laughed it off, but then she kept asking why I wasn't drinking, even after I said I was on a diet. Eventually she just blurted out, "You must be happy you're expecting Miles, but I thought you didn't want kids?" Not actually my boyfriend's name. I pretended to be shocked and looked over at Miles, and said, "Actually, I can't have children." Literally everyone was silent. I got up and left and Miles followed me. She was apparently mortified. At that moment it felt great, but on reflection, I think I might have taken it too far. I've since heard that her boyfriend is sleeping at a different friend's house and the rest of the group aren't talking to her. I'm feeling more and more like an arsehole, and I'm wondering if I should come clean and tell everyone I deliberately misled her into thinking I was pregnant? My boyfriend knows and thinks she had it coming. Next story. So I've 30M, gotten into a really messy situation and need this place to give me a verdict. So I was in a 6-year relationship with a single mom named Tara, 33F. When we met, she had a 8-year-old daughter named Sasha. We took things very slow with the whole situation. Eventually she introduced me to her daughter and things went really well. After 4 years of dating, we finally got engaged with her daughter's blessing. But we had an obstacle stopping me from tying the knot. I wanted my own biological kids. It was important to me and something I've always wanted. Tara was open to this and we had plans of having our own kids. Well, 5 years into the relationship she was still on birth control measures. I kept saying that she knew I wanted kids and what was the deal. She kept pushing off the conversation. Eventually it came out that she didn't want to have more kids. That at first she thought she did. But changed her mind. I told her that was unfortunate and decided to break off the engagement. Tara was hurt and wouldn't even let me explain things to Sasha. I was basically gone the next day. I moved a couple blocks away to a new house. Sasha somehow found out where I moved to and started showing up. Like just knocking on my door. The first couple times I opened the door and talked to her, explaining the situation and telling her she couldn't stop by without her mom knowing and it was inappropriate. She did it again and this time was demanding to know why I didn't talk to her like I used to. So I drove her back to her mom's and we have a sit-down conversation, the three of us. We explained the situation and told her she needed to let it go. So I started dating someone a few days after the breakup. Things have been going really well. But when she parked on my driveway this past weekend, her car was damaged. She had a soda thrown on the windshield and scratch marks on her driver's side door. I checked my security footage and I could see someone on a bike ride up to her car and do the damage. But it was late at night and the person had a mask and hood on. In my head it was Sasha, but I had no evidence. So this Sunday morning there is a knock on my door and it's Sasha again. It's like 8 a.m. I was fed up. I called Tara but noticed that I was blocked. I tried social media and was blocked there too. So I called the cops. The cops showed up and talked to Sasha and me. I explained the whole situation and they called Tara. Tara showed up looking out of sorts and Sasha was crying. I said I wouldn't press charges this time, but the next time she's at my house I am. And that Tara needs to be more aware of where her daughter is and maybe get therapy. That I'm sick of dealing with this, and that maybe if she didn't block me I wouldn't have had to call the cops. Tara screamed at me, and called me a ton of names. Next story. My girlfriend and I are both 23, and live in a pretty small town where everybody knows everybody. Last week, I went on a trip to see my parents, leaving my girlfriend at home by herself with our dog. The way she tells it, she took our dog out to do her business in the morning, and when she did, a man we'd never seen put his head over the wall we share with our neighbors and asked if my girlfriend was going out that day because he was doing roofing work on the house next door and didn't want the noise to bother her. An obvious red flag to me, but not to my girlfriend, who decided to tell him her plans for the day, which included going out. She went out, with the dog, and came back to the house having been robbed. There wasn't loads taken, but my laptop was among the things that were. She called me obviously upset, and when I asked her who it could have been she told me about the morning incident. Turned out she hadn't even locked the back door, after just telling this random man she was going to be out of the house all day. I told her that it was completely her fault and that her lack of critical thinking is concerning and told her, as a joke, to go to a doctor. We've been arguing about it ever since and everyone has pretty much told me that I'm being harsh on her and it isn't her fault. Next story. So I, 28 FM, an employee working for a large company with several departments. There's this new guy that I see often at the reception from another department. He's good looking, wears nice suits, but his socks are just, they look weird. They're colorful and have patterns and animals and totally don't match what he's wearing. Like they really stand out and you can't help but notice them. He's been here for 2 months and has been basically wearing those unmatching socks religiously. Some of my colleagues laughed at him, but they don't know him and rarely see him, so no harm in that. Last week, I was in a meeting with him and other employees from different departments. I sat at the corner but still couldn't help staring at his socks and trying to contain my laughter. He noticed but didn't say anything till he caught me looking at them again. That's when he sort of snapped and said, "You've been looking at my feet and laughing, is there a problem?" I finally just let out a laugh and said, "I'm sorry, but it's just these penguin socks." Everyone stared at them then laughed. He looked around then immediately went back to the project. Let me just say that it got awkward for everyone till the meeting ended. He waited for me outside the office then pulled me aside and said that those socks I was laughing at had a huge value to him because his late wife made them before her passing and he's been wearing them for a year now. I was stunned. I said I was sorry for his loss and I was kidding. Though I was kinda not, because I really thought those socks looked stupid and unmatching with his overall appearance. Plus, they make him look unprofessional and ruin his professional look. He said what was unprofessional is me going off topic and commenting and making fun of something so personal. He implied that he'd take this to HR someday soon, which I thought was huge overreaction on his part. Though, I don't really think he'll go through with his passive threat. He turned around and walked off. I felt so terrible. I went back to my department and told my colleagues what happened. They told me he's egotistical and deserved the embarrassment because what did he expect when he decided to wear stuff like that and get attention? Besides, it wasn't like I made direct comments about the socks. I just laughed quietly and did my best not to let it show, and he brought it up. Gosh. This entire situation made me nauseous because he seemed like a nice guy, but I think we got off the wrong foot, sort of speak, and maybe I was wrong. Maybe he flew off the handle. Next story. A while ago, I was awarded for my work. It's not valuable, just a framed certificate, but it was voted on by my peers and I'm a bit chuffed. That weekend I turned 40. On the Monday, my manager, Janine, and her boss, Kara, said they wanted us to celebrate these events as a team, and asked where I would like to go for lunch. I was conflicted, because there's been a history of disputes around my food allergy. In short, they always to go a nearby Chinese restaurant, but I am allergic to soy, which features in Chinese food. Kara has involved HR to find a solution, but so far they've been useful as a chocolate teapot. In meetings, though, they have insisted they want to include me, and this was the first time they'd asked for my suggestions. So in the end, I suggested a new Indian restaurant my partner and I had been to. I told Janine, I knew Indian wasn't everyone's fave, so if there were any problems I'd suggest something else. Janine said, there's nothing wrong with Indian, ooh, yum yum yum. 2 days later, Kara emailed that we were having lunch to celebrate my award and my big 4-0 at the Indian restaurant. Unfortunately, I was talking to Janine at the time Kara's email arrived. Janine did have some issues with Indian food, which she alerted me to by screaming them in my face, and having a meltdown. I calmed Janine down, then went back to my desk and broke down myself. Carolyn, manager of the next team, came over and consoled me. I was shaking so badly. Carolyn filled in the incident report for me, then emailed Janine and Kara to say I was leaving work, and drove me to my GP. GP gave me a week off work. Now I am back at work, and it's bad. Kara postponed lunch until I was better, and expected it to still go ahead as planned. Janine wants it moved to the Chinese restaurant they always go to, and HR is backing Janine because she is not coping with change, and I should accommodate her. I shot back with accommodating Janine could kill me in the process. I just want the whole thing to drop, because I am fed up, haha. Kara wants to be the peacemaker and has suggested I meet them halfway. I don't know where halfway is, and I can't be bothered finding it. Kara, Janine and HR all say I am tough for not being prepared to compromise on where we go out for lunch.